Hello, my name is rebeccasturgeon, and this is Anya. And I'm so sorry, Anya, I don't know your surname. Could you give that to us?
Ania Zyskowska.
Rolls off the tongue. Fantastic. Thank you. We are both homeopaths. I'm a homeopath who's been practicing for 30 years, and Anya is in her 4th year of graduating as a homeopath. Excellent news, Anya. So we are going to do a webinar on mental health and using homeopathy. There is a previous webinar on homeopathy principles and how to use it, and we will put the link underneath this video below. So if you want to know a bit more about homeopathy, please look there. We are going to be explaining 10 remedies, and we're going to be using mind maps to explain to you the remedies. And we're going to be telling you the physical aspect of the remedies in black, then the mental aspect of the remedies in red, and the emotional aspects of the remedy in purple. As you see the picture, we call homeopathic remedies pictures. I will also explain a case story so you can see how the picture matches the symptoms and comes to life. So we're going to begin with the very first remedy, which is aconite. And I am going to put that up on the screen. And so over to you, Anya. Aconite.
We're going to start with physical symptoms, which is number 1 for colds. Onset from exposure to wind, fright, and shock. Sudden possible violent onset. Restlessness. Palpitations. Croup early stages. And now mental symptoms, which are anxiety, sudden onset from violent or frightening events, restlessness, predicts time of death, emotional, panic attacks, and overwhelming fear of death.
So people needing this remedy are restless in their mind and their body. So they're like they're anxious, you know, they're what's going on? Their mind is running and running. I use this remedy a lot at night for people who just have overactive minds. It just calms the mind down to have this beside the bed. We give aconite at the first sign of a cold, and aconite can release the shock and or fright. It's great for acute illnesses and can be used for violent or life-threatening situations. I often give this in a 200 potency because the symptoms are quite intense. It's quick acting and short lasting, which means it needs repeating. But what we often see is the patient moves from the shock into the next symptoms. I want to tell you a little story about a fire that happened here. I'm in South Africa. A fire that happened in a township many years ago. And about 100 shacks were burnt to the ground. And I offered my services as a homeopath for anyone who needed homeopathy. And strangely, I don't know how it happened, but it was a queue of pregnant women that decided to come and see me. And there's one particular woman I want to tell you about. She came into the room that I was in, and she couldn't sit. She was like, she sat, she got up, she sat, she got up. And I said, what happened? And she said, I watched my shack burn down with everything I owned in it. And she's 5 months pregnant. And she said, since I watched my shack burn down, my baby stopped moving. I gave her 1 dose of Aconite 200 and 2 doses to take home with her. So she had 3 doses in all. I gave her 1 in the room, 1 for the night and 1 for the morning. And I told her to come and see me the next morning because I wanted, if not, I'm taking her to the hospital. The next day, she came into the room where I was working and she sat down, which was a total change from not being able to sit down the day before. And she said that that night she had slept, her baby was moving, and that she had realized everything that she'd watched burn to the ground, she could get again. And the most valuable possessions in her life, her family and her dogs, were still alive. 1 dose of aconite, 1. She never took the other 2. So that's the remarkable story of aconite. We're now going to move on to arginate. Just one moment while I find it. Oops, get rid of you. And I just find arginate. Okay, and share screen. Sorry to talk you all through this. Okay, Argentum nitricum. Over to you, Anya.
Physical symptoms are palpitations of heart, gaseous, vertigo, nausea, trembling, craving sweets and salt, diarrhea after sweets, warm-blooded, craving fresh air. Mental symptoms are impulsiveness, irrational, anxiety about health, phobias or fears of heights, crowds, when alone, being late, etc. Hurried, delusion of being forsaken, better for company, compulsive thoughts of what if, and emotional symptoms, lack of self-confidence, anticipatory anxiety around text or an exams and the future. Fear of flying. Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. Arginate, great remedy. The personality of arginate is very open and friendly, but they're quite impulsive, and they have an element of naivety around them. Often there's symptoms of that are called irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. They have a lot of gastrointestinal sort of twistings and turnings. I have found this remedy so useful since the lockdowns and during the lockdowns, when people were overwhelmed by fears such as, what if I never see my mother again? What if I can never work again? What if I lose everything I have? And so this theme of what if in the mind, this anticipation with diarrheas and stomach aches, and, you know, it's all like twisting and turning. They can't digest the information. So that is the amazing remedy. I mean, they're all amazing. I'm going to say every remedy is amazing, but that is how I've used it a lot of late. Now we're going to be looking at the remedy Arnica, which I will now find for us. Un momento. And here we have Arnica. Thank you, Anya.
Physical symptoms. It's a #1 for accidents and trauma, head injuries and concussion, bruising and swelling, post-operative pain, exhaustion, and mental symptoms, long-term consequences of trauma, exhaustion, and emotional #1 for shock.
So Arnica is seen more as an acute remedy and is generally used as such. So bumps and bruises, the egg-shaped bruises that kids get when they, in South Africa we say klap, but hit their heads. Those egg-shaped bruises. Arnica is brilliant for those as well. I tend to give Arnica at the beginning. When I see a person or an animal is in shock, I will give a dose. And this generally allows the person more than the animal to begin to shake and cry and release the shock. It is a very powerful remedy, and I've used it in many more ways than just acutes. But we're just trying to teach you its mental, emotional, and physical nature. And it's very useful for shock. So remember it, that shock of like, no, I'm fine, totally fine. That's shock when their arm's falling off, you know, hanging off. The shock is they just say, I'm fine. You give the aconite and they can start to release and come back into their body. So now we're going to look at Arsenicum, which is our next remedy. Where are you, little Arsenicum? And I will share screen. Share. Right. Okay, and you can now see it, I hope. Over to you, Anya.
Okay. Physical symptoms. It's a number 1 for food poisoning. Thirst. They would drink in sips. Burning. Tremendous restlessness. Sudden weakness. Chilly, better for feet. They are worse at midnight. And asthma. Mental symptoms: anxious, proper, tense, worried. Fastidious. They do have anxiety about health, fixation on illness. Restlessness. Many fears. Despair of recovery. And emotional, dependency on other people, vulnerable and insecure, preoccupation with death, and obsessed with order and tidiness.
Arsenicum. This is one of our, we call them polycrysts. So we use a lot of this remedy. They're anal, like they want everything in the right place. They'll walk into a room and they'll set the painting straight. I've got no painting to set straight. They want everything neat and proper. Again, I found this remedy very useful in lockdowns. The fear of disease was palpable, fear of germs and dirt. Arsenicum, fastidious about cleaning and cleanliness. Now there's this threat of disease. Got to keep sanitizing, like terrified. They don't think anything is going to be able to work. They just feel like the remedies won't work. Nothing's going to work. It's all a disaster. They're totally out of control. And that's one of the things about Arsenicum is they are better for being in control. If they're out of control, their world falls apart. So that's why they like everything neat and ordered, because it helps them feel safe. So with the lockdowns and that inability of feeling safe, this was a very powerful remedy during those times. So now we're going to look at Gelsemium. Oh, I must get rid of that before I do that. And share screen. Gelsemium. Okay. Over to you, Anya.
Physical symptoms. It's a number 1 for flu. Drooping eyelids. Weaknesses. Paralysis. Internal trembling. Vertigo. Mental. Dullness of thoughts. Forgetfulness. Drowsy. Lacks courage. Timid. And emotional symptoms: severe anxiety, shock, fright, stage fright, anxious, fear of doctors, dentists.
So I just want to point something out here about Gelsemium. When we see that it's number 1 for flu. And if we consider what flu is, there's this like, you know, you're feeling very heavy and weak and your eyes are heavy and drooping. And you can feel a bit trembly, and when you get out of bed, you just should be lying down, the vertigo. So if you consider the thoughts around flu and then notice the dullness of thoughts, the forgetfulness, the drowsiness, the lax courage, the timidness of the flu, that all just feeds in to flu symptoms. And again, you can almost see like fear of doctors and dentists, like, oh, I don't know, I'll just stay in bed. I don't want anyone to look at me. That whole picture of flu, you can see it. But Gelsemium also works for sort of anticipatory anxieties when they're fearing doing an exam or a play. So I use this a lot when students are studying or having to perform stage fright, and they're anxious and shaky and they can't remember anything. They've got a dull mind. They're feeling sick. You know, I can't retain any of this information. I'm exhausted. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't get on stage. No. It's too, I'm scared. Gelsemium gets them on stage. Gelsemium gets them into the exam room. It gets rid of all of those fears. It's an amazing remedy. Again. Okay, and now we are on Natrum Mur. Lovely Natrum Mur. Where are you? No, there. Yeah. Let's see if I can find Natrum Mur. Please give me that. We got it. It's working. Okay, over to you, Anya.
Physical symptoms: headaches and migraine, hay fever. Yeah, I will need your help.
Lacrimation of eyes. That means the eyes are watering. Think of hay fever.
General aggravation from the sun and 10 a.m. Crave salty food. And mental symptoms: it's a number one for ailments from grief and disappointed love. Sad, hysteria, adverse to consolation, insomnia, and depression. And for the emotional symptoms, we've got close, refined, and dignified, sensitive, too serious, overly proper people, fastidious, perfectionist.
So when I did this slide, I took a dose of Natrum Mur afterwards. I was like, I need that. I've forgotten about that. It's such an English remedy. They're very stoic, stiff upper lip, but this fastidious perfectionism is very acute in them, very serious, sensitive people. There's a saying about Natrum Mur. It's a massive heartbreak remedy. They say Natrum Mur people fall in love with the coachman. And what that means is they fall in love with someone who's not there. He's traveling away. She's traveling away. And it also, by falling in love with the unavailable, it sort of confirms that they're never lovable. So there's all this disappointed love and grief, and they tend to hold it in unless they're alone, and then they can go hysterical. So they cry alone, they keep all their emotions in, they don't want anyone to know, but they're very proper and right, and they get everything done. Very English remedy. Okay, let us move on to Nux vomica. Let me just get rid of that, and then I know it won't come up. Nux vomica. Okay, let me go there. I'm getting good at this. Okay, Anya.
So it's a remedy. It's a number one remedy for hangover. Cannot bear noises and lights. Sedentary life. Sedentary life.
Sedentary life, yeah.
Nausea. Insomnia. And for mental symptoms, we've got irritable, disposed to reproach others, fastidious, sullen, fault finding, angry and impatient, and emotional, addictions, addicts, desire power, compulsive, competitive, and workaholics.
So often in my practice, I've seen Nux vomica as more of a male remedy, to be fair. I find it's better given at night. And so, as I said, like it's more of a male remedy. They're driven men. They get irritable quickly. They want this done, that done. They're burning the candle at both ends. They're, working hard. They're working hard to look after the family in the end, and they're finished. They're exhausted and they're angry. And so I recommend this remedy to bring peace to households and support the man as he supports the family. So one picture I remember of a dear friend of mine, actually, her husband, like this, very hardworking, very competitive, wants everything done a certain way, finds fault with all his workers and his wife, and everybody's in trouble. And she said to me, when I give him Nux vomica, Rebecca, he just calms down. He can talk to everyone nicely. There's less yelling in the house. So, it's a massive liver remedy, as you've heard. It's #1 for hangovers. But if you think somebody who's working so hard and pushing the boundaries, it's big liver remedy. This is a great remedy for those hard-working men that we need to support. Okay, so now we're going to go to rescue remedy, which actually I'm going to tell you about by the looks of my notes. And I will find it. So you can just relax, Anya, put your feet up. And where is it? Okay, I'm going to find it. I can't even find it. So, I know why. I was going to tell you about it. That's right. So rescue remedy was created by Dr. Bach, and it's a combination of remedies that he decided to call rescue remedy. It contains 5 different remedies: Star of Bethlehem, Clematis, Impatiens, Cherry Plum, and Rock Rose. Rescue remedy is worth carrying with you in case of emergencies or everyday stresses. Rescue remedy can help you through difficult situations or stressful events such as an exam, a job interview, in a calm and relaxed manner. And that's true. I've used it many times. Use when you're stressed or your mind is overactive. Take a dose or 2 of rescue remedy in the evening before going to sleep if you suffer from overactive mind while you're sleeping. And now we are going to look at Sepia. Okay. Over to you.
Symptoms are hormonal disorders, nausea and vomiting of pregnancy, worn out, left-sided headache, especially over the left eye. Mental symptoms: cries when telling their story, words for consolation, postpartum depression, aversion to company, yet dreads being alone, angry, at least disturbance, yells at their children, and emotional: aversion to loved ones, aversion to sex, women who dislike men and vice versa, guilt, isolation, a feeling of emptiness, and loves thunderstorms and dancing.
Such an they're all interesting remedies. Sepia, it's very female, but I have given it to men in the past. They love to dance. They really do. They really want to. They just want to get out and dance and shake it all off. So as you can see, this is a really quite female remedy, as I just said. So like Nux vomica, Sepia helps bring peace to the home of the worn out mother. So I've given this remedy so many times. It's such a powerful remedy. I call it the worn out mother, and I also have another name for it, but it's got a swear word in it, so I'm not going to use it. But basically, the mother is nasty. She's hormonal. She's shouting at the kids, doesn't want to talk to the husband, just wants to be on her own, but can't be on her own because there's all these kids and the husband. And she's just hormonally over it, wants everyone to get off her. She's not the flipping fridge. It's like that. Just everyone leave me alone. I've had enough. So it's brilliant for the worn out mother. I also give it if people are suffering from hormonal outbursts during, you know, around their moon time, their menses. I give it before and during that time. And again, we're trying to have a peaceful home. Life is stressful enough. Sepia will help those times. Okay, so this is actually our final remedy, which is Staphysagria, which I will just collect. Share screen. Okay.
So,
over to you, Anya.
Physicals, cystitis, swallows frequently when anxious, sties, teeth ache and scramble, and mental symptoms, victim in life, wants to serve and please others, outbursts of passion, humiliation, morbidly sensitive, always angry, fighting, feels weak and worthless, never make demands, and emotional, suppress anger, history of rape, sexual abuse, and also self-abuse. Over to you.
Thank you, darling. So, there's so many stories about this remedy. I'm thinking of a girl in her 20s that I treated that was cutting herself and a lot of self-abuse, very angry, very victim, blaming it on everyone else, couldn't really, could only harm herself rather than speaking out. And the situation was all around her conflict with her mother. The father wasn't in the picture. She wasn't free to leave. She couldn't leave. She couldn't get out of the house, sort of dependent on the mother still. It was really messy, the situation. And in this situation, I had to see the mother as well. It wouldn't just work seeing the daughter. I had to work with the mother as well. The daughter did very, very well on Staphysagria, and managed to get herself into, I think she started her own little business and started renting her own house and started to get into her own life. So it was a beautiful outcome. Often that's what I find when I give Staphysagria, is that people stop blaming and getting angry at the world because they feel like a victim and they can feel stronger in themselves. So what we've done, to give you a very quick way of referring to the remedies, who is for anxiety and who is for depression. Excuse me, I've done a little, let me show you. Mind map of the remedies that are specific for anxiety and then the ones that are specific for depression. So you, dear learner, can learn which are the ones are specific for which ones. And then you can decide, because homeopathy is specific, which is the remedy that you need for anxiety or depression. So over to you, Anya, for anxiety.
So we've got Aconite, Argenite, Arsenicum, Gelsemium, Natrum, Rescue Remedy, and Staphysagria.
Thank you. So those remedies of the 10 we've just taught you are the ones that that you can look at. And then I'm just going to go through the depression remedies for you. Where are you? There you are. It's just a quick reference for you, dear learner, so you know who's who in the zoo. So for depression, we have Aconite, Argenite, Arsenicum, Gelsemium, Natrum, Nux vomica, Sepia, and Staphysagria. So these 10 remedies can do a lot of work within the fields of anxiety and depression. As the people who are learning this, you just need to look at the symptoms and go, okay, this picture of the remedy matches the picture of the person. You don't have to have all of the symptoms we've given you. You just need a few. In fact, in homeopathy, we have something called a three-legged stool, which means if you have 3 symptoms in an acute situation, use that remedy. So I'm just going to give some general Q&As. I suggest you use a 30 potency or a 200 potency in acute situations. I suggest if somebody is chronically depressed that you get them to a homeopath. I'm saying homeopath because that's what we're talking about. If it's an acute, you can so treat it yourself. My email address will be in the link at the bottom. And if you have any questions, you're really welcome to ask me. Repetition of the remedy, I would recommend you give it twice a day to 3 to 5 days. And remedies normally come in pill form or in water form. Those are the basics. I wonder, Kerry, if you might have a question at all?
Thank you. That was so informative. I really love the way it was laid out. And I think anyone that can, we can probably timestamp so they can go in and focus on maybe one that they were really thinking about. But what I was just wondering, so for example, Rescue Remedy and Aconite can maybe relax the mind to help the sleep. And I know you said about personality and you're picking the three symptoms, but is there a rule of thumb on which one you would choose in that situation or something like that?
Between Aconite and Rescue Remedy? Yeah, I would look at the restlessness of the individual. I find Aconite is really restless, as is Arsenicum. They're both quite restless, anxious remedies. But Aconite's more of the suddenness, whereas Arsenicum is more deeply entrenched. Rescue Remedy and Aconite, have it all over your house, in your handbag, in your car, in your workplace, one or the other. I wouldn't say one is more appropriate than the other. The restlessness is the thing that points me towards Aconite over Rescue Remedy.
Thank you. That's interesting. I think, and are you happy for people to watch the Zoom and then maybe buy their own homeopathic remedies?
Oh, thank you for that. We've tried to build this around the Ainsworth's 40 kit and the Helios 36 kit. So if they've got one of those kits, they've got all the remedies already, other than the Rescue Remedy. But of course, they must go get their remedies from their local homeopathic pharmacy or their local homeopath.
That's excellent.
Good
Thank
question.
you so much. Really, really enjoyed it. Thank you. And thank you, Anya, too.
Thank you all for watching.
So I was just going to say, if there's nothing else, we can conclude, and we'll put all the links in. And for those that don't know very much about homeopathy, they can watch the first in the series, and there's more to come, which is really exciting. Thank you so much, Rebecca and Anya, on behalf of the People's Health Alliance. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you very
Such a
much.
pleasure.
Thank you.